Start recording. So the session is again is getting recorded. So last time what we discussed was explain about your application, right? So there we had, as we discussed, around 2 projects is what we should be mentioning, and you can go ahead and mention 2 more projects or 5 more projects. I don't care, but whatever you are mentioning is you need to explain that. Okay. Why I insist on only on these 2 projects? Reason being, we have done work on these 2 projects. So if some question is given to you which relates to these applications, I think you should be able to handle it because you have already worked on it. Now there can be cases where you have another project on which you haven't worked, you have only read the description of it, then it would become difficult for you to answer it, right? And that is why I'm insisting that you should be using only these 2 projects, and though these 2 projects are enough to for 4 years of experience, up to 4 years of experience, right? So we discussed e-commerce last time. For e-commerce, I'll also like to show the demo site which I'm talking about here. Demo CS cart is the name of the site. Okay, what happened? Demo CS cart. Oops. Right, so this is what I'm talking about. This is a shopping cart software. Okay, we all have worked or automated some test cases in it, and it has lot many features as I mentioned. So search, add to cart, add to basket, add to cart, then checkout, then my order history, then payment gateway. All those things are there. So I was asking you guys to go and have a look as well as play around with this website so that you will get complete understanding of all the features and functionalities of this. Because if you are asked about any challenging thing, if you ask about a question which you haven't heard or you haven't prepared yet in the interview, you will be able to answer it properly if you have some understanding of, or you have spent good amount of time on this website. So that's why I'm asking you again to do something on this. Anyway, all the new students is who are new students, and we are going to work on this as well, so no worries if you haven't seen this earlier. Right, so we are here. So I'm currently working on e-commerce website and business is B2C, as I explained, business to customer. So there can be 2 models, business to business and business to customer. Business to business are where one business sells to another business. Example is there's a company called as Ingram Micro. They sell their products to Chroma or Vijay Sales, and from Vijay Sales we go and buy it, right? So the companies which sells to Vijay Sales, they are actually e-commerce domain businesses, but they are B2B, business to business. That they deal with the other businesses, not actually the customers. And Amazon, Flipkart, they're example of business to C, B2B, B2C, right? So our application is B2C. We have all the necessary features and functionalities of B2C e-commerce website, like search product, compare products, add to wish list, add to basket, checkout, and payment gateway. I'm currently working on search feature, as it is the most volatile functionality, is subject to change, and by every new product which is being added, there can be new functionalities associated with it, which also gets added, and this way the application becomes unstable at times, and that's a challenge for you. So when someone asks, tell me about challenging scenario or challenge which you face, you can say this: such functionality is changing a lot, and we need to accommodate the changes in our scripts as well. And at times it becomes difficult because a lot of maintenance work comes. Okay, these kind of things you can say. Retail banking is what I think everyone on this call has seen it earlier. It's a parabank retail banking application. It's a very simple application, so we always choose it for automation in the beginning itself. So I think you are aware of it. So both these applications you should be going, and you should play around with these, do some exploratory testing there. Right, now the important question: explain about your project. Okay, so this is a I think, in my opinion, is the most important question, because since you are not working in any of the live or actual project, you guys will find it difficult to answer because you actually haven't seen how things work in a live environment, right? All you have is a theory. All you have is a agile scrum theory, and based on theory, you try to answer the question. Based on theory, you try to answer a practical question, and you mess it up. Okay, so it's very important that you understand it. When we had Jira, I think last time when we had Jira, we were working on it. I tried to give you a glimpse of how things work in agile scrum methodology. I was trying to expose you to the pressure which is there in agile scrum methodologies. I used to tell, okay, it has to be completed by this date. My primary purpose was to give you understanding and bring you into such kind of environment where you start understanding, what is the liability and obligation of each and individual person who is a part of agile scrum team, right? So that is what I was trying to do then. Unfortunately, we couldn't do it long enough. But whatever information I tried to give whoever was part of those sessions, I think they have some understanding of how agile scrum works, right? uh, okay, cool. Sorry guys, so let's start with this now. So I'm going to talk about theory, okay, and how things work. Perhaps I would also like to tell you I'll tell some try to explain this in a block diagrams perhaps, or in a timeline manner, and see how many questions are coming from you. So Sarang, your question will also be part. I try to cover that in this question itself. So our project is agile scrum. So agile has different methodologies. In agile you have Kanban, Scrum, XP. There are a few more there, which are, some people say part of agile, but primarily we have Scrum, Kanban, and XP. So I'm not going to talk about XP because I myself haven't worked or seen XP anywhere, apart from I have heard it because it's very famous keyword which is associated with Windows XP. So extreme programming is a methodology using which Windows was created. That's why they gave it a name as Windows XP. Other than that, we have other methodologies called as Scrum and Kanban. Kanban is task based. Okay, so that means they give more priority to the task and not the time. But Scrum is, on the other hand, is a time bound. It's a time boxed methodology where everything has to be done with a specified, predefined, predetermined duration of time. Okay, there are a lot many concepts in Scrum, but I'm not going to go into those details right now. I'm going to talk about how things would work in an agile Scrum environment, and how would you explain it, considering that you are actually part of agile Scrum. Okay, so in your case, what you should be saying is, I am working in agile Scrum, and we have a sprint cycle of 3 weeks. As I said, agile Scrum is a uh, time boxed. So there has to be a duration in which you have to complete all the activities. So you say and that those cycle is called a sprint in agile Scrum. So sprint is, you can say it's 3 weeks. It can be from 1 week to 3 weeks. It cannot be more than 3 weeks, right? If something is going beyond 3 weeks, you're not fulfilling all the necessary conditions for you to be able to call it agile Scrum. So it has to be within 1 to 3 weeks. So we'll say it's 3 weeks. You can also say it's 2 weeks, but I would suggest you say 3 weeks because it gives enough, uh, time for you to complete your testing and regression testing. Sorry. So we have a sprint cycle of 3 weeks. First 2 weeks is dedicated towards development work. Remaining 1 week is reserved for testing activities. Okay. Why I am asking you to say 3 weeks? Because that is something I have actually worked on. I have worked on Agile Scrum where it was the sprint cycle was of 3 weeks. So that is the example I'm trying to give here. Okay, that it's actually a live example in which I have worked earlier. So first 2 weeks is dedicated towards development. That means dev work happens then, and the last week is reserved for testing activity. So first 2 weeks, all the development work, that means all the user stories, which was part of the Scrum at the time, were completed in 2 week period. And once that 2 week period is completed, then your testing activities starts, and then 1 week you complete your regression testing activities. Okay, in the first 2 weeks, development is working on the sprint backlog. So this is a sprint concept of sprint backlog. As I said, I'll not go into detail of agile Scrum. I hope everyone has some understanding of it. Whoever the, all the new guys, don't worry, I'm going to talk about it in the class itself later. But for now, try to understand this, that there is a duration. We have 3 weeks. The first 2 weeks we do development, and the development is basically based on the sprint backlog, all the user stories which are present in the sprint backlog. Okay, what's this? Anyway, our functional team is also going through the same sprint backlog and reducing the corresponding test scenarios. So while the sprint backlog developer is actually, I don't know what's happening. 1 minute. Can anyone see this drawing on the screen?
Actually, sir, some of the member is messed up with the text highlighting feature of the Zoom mobile app.
Okay, guys, don't do it. I thought
He,
my
he
daughter
should
is doing
be
something.
there clearing first clear the this particular thing.
Okay, whoever did that, can you please remove it? I don't
Just
know.
click on the pencil icon over there, and there was an option at the last clear. So you should be pressing over there, and it would be get clear.
Okay, can I do it from here? Okay, it's gone. So guys, I mean, it's fine, you're playing with it, but let's wait for some time, then we'll all play. Anyway, Holi is coming. Anyway, so let me go back to meeting. Can you guys see my screen now?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir. Okay, cool. So guys, go on mute. There are a few disturbances coming. Cool. So I was talking about this sprint backlog. Our functional team is also going through sprint backlog and reducing the corresponding test cases. Once development team is done with their work and deploy the latest code on our test server, then our test execution cycle starts. New test case, that is test case related to the same sprint manual test are being executed manually. So there's lot to consume. I know there's a lot to consume here. Let me go and share some drawing board in which I try to draw some block diagrams. So I was trying this earlier. Let me remove all this. I'll tell you. I'll draw something. So let me draw a line first. Okay. So this is the line. Assume this is your sprint. Okay, this is your sprint. Now this sprint duration is 3 weeks. Now, as I said, 2 weeks are for your development. Okay, so from here to here, this is your dev. This is your development happening here. Okay, and from here to here, you are having your testing activities. Test. Okay, and this is dev is for 2 weeks, 1 week is for test. Now the main important point is, so what you are doing, because you have said that last 1 week is for testing, isn't it? Guys, you can see my screen, right? I'm drawing something. Can you see that?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Someone is sick. Anyway, so now the question can be what you guys are doing. Guys, go on mute. Everyone go on mute. There's someone who is not on mute. It was Sangram, I think. Unmute yourself only if you want to ask a question. Okay. So this last is test, isn't it? So this test is where you go and execute the test pack. So execution is not done by individual. Execution is done by the machine, right? So while you're doing test execution, you are not busy. You are free because your virtual machine or other machine is doing the execution for you. Okay, but what you as an automation tester have been doing all these 3 weeks, right? So the answer to this is, while the development is happening, you guys are automating the test cases from the previous sprint. Okay, now let me draw another diagram. Let me draw the same thing again. So this is your sprint 1. Okay, and again the same thing here. This is your division, this is your dev. As I said, this dev, this is test, right? And this is your, again someone is on mute. Anyone want to ask question? Sprint 16. Come on, who is it? Supriya. Everyone go on mute, guys. Don't unmute yourself. Only unmute only if you have any questions. Okay. So this is sprint 16, and let's say this is sprint 17, right? So in sprint 16 as well, there were few dev and this period is dedicated to dev. This period is dedicated to test. This is test. This is dev. Now in sprint 17, when development was developing new functionalities, you as an automation tester is automating the functionalities of the sprints of the features developed in sprint 16. Guys, you're getting what I'm trying to say or not?
Yes, sir.
Anyone has any question? Because this is complex and at the same time important. So if you're not getting it, you need to raise it. Any stupid, I'll take any stupid question on this. Okay, I'll take any question. Don't worry that if you think that okay, what kind of question I'm asking, everyone will kind of you feel embarrassed because it's a stupid question. It's not that, because it's a complex, because it's a little bit complex concept, and you should ask question if you're not getting it.
Okay, sir.
Right. So any question? No. Okay. So this is sprint 16. This is sprint 17. In this sprint, the automation tester, which is you, will be automating the test cases of the previous sprint. That means, let's say, let me draw it. So this is you. Let me draw some legs. This is you. This is automation tester. Okay. Now this automation tester, while the developer is doing the dev work, this guy is automating test cases from this sprint. You can say n-1. Okay, that's what Sarah was mentioning. So don't worry about this n and all those things. Just understand this way. In the current sprint, you are automating the test cases of the sprint 16. Okay, and same way it will happen. So you always automate the test cases which has been created in the previous sprints, not in the current sprint, because dev itself hasn't created anything. Dev himself is not very sure of the functionalities. He will deliver the functionalities here. The dev is going to deliver functionalities when he reaches here. So it's very less time for you to automate the test case during the test period, right? So the automation tester, which is you, continuously creates automated scripts. Okay, irrespective of you are in a dev period or you are in a test period, because in dev period you are free. In test period also you are free, because the test period execution is happening, and who is doing execution? The machine, not you. So you are still free. So you will continuously, during the whole period, you are automating. Okay, now how you automate? You have a sheet. This is called as automation backlog, which I was talking about last time. Automation backlog, A and B. Okay, automation backlog, right? This automation backlog is the collection of all the test cases from all the previous sprints which you want to automate, and you one after another pick test cases out of it based on their priorities, and based on those priorities you keep picking those test cases up and you automate them. And once you automate it, you add that test case to your pack wherever you have kept it. If you have kept it in Git, you're keeping it somewhere else, you're creating a build, no matter how you keep it. If you're creating a test case, you need to add that into the pack, which gets executed after end of each sprint during this period. So during this test period, you execute your test cases which has been created in the previous sprint. I hope I have explained it well. If anyone has any question on this, they can please raise it. Now is the time. Okay, so I'll just summarize it quickly. sprint cycle of 3 weeks. That's what you have to say. I have a sprint cycle of 3 weeks. If they are explain about the projects, if they say you can start with we are automating e-commerce website, and then you quickly come here. We are working in agile scrum environment where we have 3 weeks of I'm highlighting it. So you have 3 weeks of sprint cycle, and first week is development work. Second is testing activities, right? And in the first 2 weeks, development team is working on the sprint backlog. Development team has their own sprint backlog, and the functional team is also working on the same sprint backlog and reducing the test cases out of it. So what we do in first week? So what we do in first week sprint cycle? Okay, Rahul is asking this. What we do in the first week? So what we do in the first week sprint cycle? Okay. So what we do is, I'll explain. In the first week of sprint cycle, you automate. You always automate. Automation tester, always continuously automate the scenarios based on what? Automation backlog. So automation backlog is what I explained you. I think the previous question. Where is it? I don't know. I have written somewhere automation backlog. Anyway, so automation backlog is created by manual tester, or even you can create it, or your lead or manager, someone creates it, and they keeps on adding higher priority test cases for you to pick it and automate it. So in the first cycle, in the first week, second week, third week, you continuously automate, as well as you entertain the request to execute the pack as well, as and when required. So sanity, smoke is all responsibility of automation testing. They go and execute these packs, and whenever request comes, they do it. Or there's an advanced concept of CI. If there is CI, you really don't have to automate anything. Execute anything. Everything executes automatically. We're not going to go into that detail right now, but as putting simply, we have sprint backlog, we have automation backlog. You continuously automate it. Once development team is done with their work and deploys the latest code on our test server, execution cycle starts. New test case, that is test case created in the same sprint manual tester are being executed manually, and automation testers, to which I am part of, go ahead and execute an automation test pack for regression purposes. We are maintaining all the activities in Jira and storing our test artifacts in Agile Center. So I was talking about these elements earlier. Your roles and responsibilities. Your roles and responsibility is maintenance activity. So if there's a new change, and because of that new change, a test case, automated test case is failing, that you need to maintain it. New test case creation. So continuously you keep on creating new test cases. And execution. So this is what I have just explained, that you execute in the test cycle. You run a smoke test, you run regression pack, all those things. Manual test execution also at times, defect logging. All right. So any questions on this? Sarang, did I answer your question?
Yes, sir. I have another question on maintenance activity.
Okay.
Consider a scenario that we are automating a login page where there are only 2 text boxes and a sign in or a login button over there.
Okay.
And we are written over there 10 test cases for it. And there is an additional remember me checkbox, additional activity come over there.
Okay.
After some intervals or after some sprint.
New cycle.
Then okay, so we had written 10 test cases over there firstly. So are we going to add or edit this test cases for the checkbox, or we are writing another 10 or 5 test cases different rather than the 10 which we are written over there previously?
Right, sir. Really, that's a very, very good question. It proves that you are paying attention. So, you are trying to understand it logically. So that's true. If you have 10 test cases, and those 10 test cases is getting affected by a new functionality, okay, then what you have to see is that the new functionality is the new functionality is breaking your test case or not. So remember me functionality, I guess, will not break the existing test cases. So let's say login, you're doing the login, person is logging, if he's not clicking on the remember me checkbox, that's fine, it's optional, right? That's optional. So this new functionality which is being added, remember me, will not break the test case. Getting it? That's first thing. Now second thing, let's say, so in this case, if something is not, it's not getting broken and no test case is getting impacted by the addition of the new functionality, in that case you will only go and automate a new test case which is based on, which demands you to test remember me functionality. Okay, so you are going to create new test cases. Manual test cases, manual writers, manual test case, manual people will go and create new test cases for remember me, and once they create it, they will give it to you. You're going to create 5 more test cases which only deals with remember me, right? Now there is another case. Now there's a login functionality, login username, login password, and there's a link, and then they add captcha. Now captcha is mandatory, isn't it? Now since captcha is mandatory, without filling captcha, login will not happen, and that way your 10 test cases can fail, right? In such cases, you need to first go and amend all those test cases which are there in your pack, because it's a mandatory on all your test cases will fail. That's the first thing you would do. And then you will also going to create new test cases which only deals with captcha. Okay. So in this case, perhaps just amending those 5-10 test cases in amending those 10 test cases which was getting impacted earlier, perhaps they themselves will cover this captcha functionality fully once you make a change there. If it's not happening, so anyway you have to make a change in those test cases which are already there, and you need to go and create new test cases also. So if there is another just to summarize a thumb rule, if there's any new functionality being added, we need to see if existing test cases are getting impacted by it or not. If there is an enhancement, just by adding that, your existing test cases are not being impacted, in such cases you will not do anything. You will only automate 5 new test cases which only deals with that particular functionality. Second case is, let's say if that particular new addition is impacting the existing functionality or existing test case, in that case you need to go and amend the existing pack, as well as if need be you go and create new test cases for the new functionality. So new test cases creation will always be there. It's just the matter of whether you should be amending the pack or not. No impact, no amendment. If there is any impact on the existing test case, you need to go and maintain them. Did I answer the question, Sarah?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. And are we going to consider time complexity for this particular scenario, as our build is going to uh, uh, having more number of test cases after some amount of time? It is a simple example that I proposed here, but amendment or writing new test cases over there can impact the time complexity or the execution of the test suite.
Right. So you're talking about if we keep on amending new test cases and you keep on adding new test cases, there would be a time in the future that your pack will become too huge to execute in predetermined time. That's what you're asking?
Yes, sir.
Right. So that's not a problem. Okay. Why? Because we are using Selenium. We don't automate things thinking in mind that okay, we don't want to have such a huge pack that it becomes difficult for us to execute. No, you try to solve this problem. So let's say in your case, test execution time is a problem. Let's say your test pack is executing for days, 3, 4, 5 days. That's not productive. It's counterproductive rather, right? You have to wait for 8 days, 7 days for a test to be completed, right? But in Selenium and Java, you have TestNG where you have multi-threading, where you can run things in parallel. In such environment, you shouldn't be worrying about it. You should be adding more nodes, more parallel processors for your pack to be completed in time. Okay, so let's say you have a pack of 100 test cases, you execute it manually, you have 5 minutes per test case execution time. Perhaps it will take 5-6 hours to complete it, right? But you think this time is huge, you deploy another machine there. Or if you can do it in multi-threaded environment using TestNG, You can run at a time 10 to 15 test cases at a time. It will give you execution time of 2 hours or 1 hour, right? Now let's say your test pipe becomes too huge. You have 5,000 test cases automated, and on single machine it takes 8 days, right? You can again do parallel processing. You can bring in more machines in. Machines are cheap. Any company will have virtual machines for sure, because machines are not very costly. You can have run those in a single machine. You can run 15 parallel instances, and you deploy 5 machines. It gives you 50 or 60 test cases running in parallel. It gives you execution time in in hours, not days. Okay, so that is not actually a problem, I would say, in my opinion. In my case, we have around I think 2,500 test cases. We run them in 4 hours. So at a single one point of time, we run around 30 test cases, parallel instances. So it's not a problem for us.
So rather to say, the amendment part is not actually uh, attached to the this time complexity thing. The time complexity comes under the picture when we use more number of loops over there. Am I right, sir? Or the logic which we are writing to execute the test case or deducing the data from any database or any validation over there.
Right. So one thing is for sure, your patch should be whatever code you're writing, it should be efficient. Otherwise your performance issues will come there. It shouldn't be happening. It shouldn't happen that something should take like 1 minute, and you're written your code in such a manner that it's taking 5 minutes, right? It could happen that you have put unnecessary for loops, unnecessary validations you are doing, right? For example, in a specific one test case, you need 5 browsers to open one after another, and you are not reusing the same browser. You are invoking browser again and again, right? These kind of things will result in unnecessary efficiency issue or performance issues. So that is something that is a different concept altogether, right? Your framework should be robust enough to handle these things. And your code reviewer, we also need to have a code review where people will go and check what kind of code you are writing. So once you get into actual project, there will be a team lead on, there will be a peer-to-peer review process where whatever code you're writing, your superior will go and have a look if that is efficient or not. If not efficient, he will suggest, and you guys need to go and make changes there. Okay, so increase in the number of test cases is not an issue, but if you are having a test case which is unnecessarily inefficient and have some performance glitches, that is not acceptable. So you have to fix it. Someone will need to point it out. You need to fix it, right? So we have less than 1 minute. This call is going to get over, but I think let's continue. I'm going to, once this meeting is over, I'm going to send another link. Join that. So we are not over. Let's wait. Let's have this meeting again for another 15-20 minutes. I want to cover more questions. Okay, this meeting is going to end. I'm going to send another link. Bye.